Welcome to the Informal Game. I'm Griff. I've got Chris with me, and we're going to talk a little bit about role-playing games, so don't touch that dial. If you've been following the show, you've probably seen me talk a lot about kind of odds and ends about playing role-playing games. We got a lot of comments in the comments section about making worlds and making dungeons and running wilderness campaigns. So I thought I would just start with the most basic thing and just do a series of videos about making dungeons. So today I just want to talk about map making. I got this map here. This map is an early example. This is the earliest example that most people would have seen of what a dungeon should look like. And if you're looking at modern game products, this probably looks pretty simple and kind of primitive. And then we also had the where is it? I had it right here. We also had the Blackmoor dungeon, or it wasn't the Blackmoor dungeon. It was Dave Arneson's dungeon that was in the Blackmoor supplement with the Temple of the Frog, and it had a bunch of maps. Here's one example. So people had this as an example, but it also contained upper level temple maps and things like that, like so. And then of course by 1977 we had a lot of other modules. Judges Guild was making stuff, I think, by then, and there might have been some things in the Dragon magazine and places like that. Tunnels and Trolls had come out, so we had other options. But this is kind of the classic standard dungeon that you see that comes from the Holmes Blue Book. And you know, if you look at this, it's pretty simple. It's really basic stuff, right? There's not... It looks so simple, it almost seems kind of silly if you didn't know what an RPG was. But these kind of simple maps are what comes to life when you activate it through describing it and playing a real game. So I just wanted to go into a little bit about map making and show you what I do when I make a map, and sort of convey some basic information about how I go about that. So let's start talking about making a map. A map can be as easy and simple as you want, or as complex as you want. It's really up to you. I think the thing that people get really wrapped up in is RPGs, because they're so, you see so many videos about RPGs, people talking about them. There's just so much media around them now that it's become almost competitive. Like, you've got to make your first dungeon has to be the best dungeon anyone has ever created. And I just think that stuff doesn't matter. Here's an interesting trick you can do. I'll just show it to you really quick. You start your dungeon. Well, you've got stairs down, right? So you draw a line, and these are stairs. So maybe you just do some hash marks to note that this is a stairs, and you mark that they lead down this way, right? Those are stairs, and that line is a 10-foot passage. Well, this is about, maybe let's say, about 30 feet, right? I can put 30 feet next to it just to show what it is. Okay, I've got a 10-foot wide passage that goes for 30 feet. And I get to a room, and the room, I don't even have to make it square. I just do a circle, and I can just make a note. And this room is, let's say it's 30 by 40 feet, right? It's really easy. Maybe I have another passage coming off this way, but there's a secret door there, right? I just write a letter S there. Oops. It's not really an S, but you know what I mean. It's kind of a main entrance area to your dungeon, and you can just keep spidering out, and you can also do, suddenly my passage breaks off at a weird angle. I like to use just plain paper. I'll use anything at hand. You give me an old shopping bag, I can use that to make a dungeon. I don't care. Because with a dungeon, your players will never see your map. The only thing they see is the duplicate that they produce when they're mapping the dungeon, if you do what I mentioned in that other video about mapping the dungeon. So they're going to create a map that will actually look better than the map that you're making with these little squiggly lines here. Of course, you can always do the classic maps where you have an entrance going down, and maybe like so. and you've got stairs leading down into the darkness, and then a passage, and maybe the passage opens up into a large room with passages leading off in every direction. Maybe there's a fountain in the middle or something like that. I feel like Bob Ross right now. Put a happy little fountain in the middle. And you can just keep expanding on that. What else? Yeah. And then I also am really concerned about, or it's not really concerned, but there's sort of this group of people that are all saying, like, you know, there should be a dungeon ecology. And I sort of thought about that stuff when I was a kid, and I've sort of come full circle. I think dungeon ecology is useful because you want to know what the place was used for in the past. It's like an ancient catacomb. It had to have a purpose. Yet it's so old that it's been repurposed. The things you're going to find in there, you might find ancient treasures that were hidden behind secret doors that you can assume have been there for 1,000 years or however long. Or they might be something that somebody else has come along and put hidden there. And the monsters are things, unless there's something really old like a dragon or something like that, they're just critters that have wandered in and are hanging out down there. And their reasons for being there probably have nothing to do with the original intent behind the creation of your underworld. And then, yeah, the ecology thing, I think it really limits what you can do in a dungeon. I like dungeons to be a little bit freeform, because it makes it more interesting. And if you are more freeform, you can be more creative with it, like I've got right here. The other thing about like the dungeon ecology concept is that again, I think it really limits people, because when you do the dungeon ecology concept, suddenly if you really needed to have it be a full environment that has enough things for the monsters to eat and enough whatever resources to create an ecology, you're going to make a bigger dungeon, and there's not going to be that much stuff in there. And really the game is about exploring sort of supernatural underworld places. So my advice is to just don't worry about it. You know, your players are going to get in there. What they're concerned about is the problems you're posing to them. There's a monster in the room, or there's a treasure chest in the room, or maybe there's a secret passage or a secret chamber in the wall that's discovered, and you open it and inside is some sort of treasure. And of course there are lots of traps and things like that too. Once they get immersed in this fantastical reality and you've established that, they're not going to be thinking about ecology. They're just going to be thinking about, okay, what do we do to overcome the monsters, and what do we do to get more treasure? Don't allow your inhibitions to stop you from having a really fun dungeon. Just cut loose. Make stuff up. Lie on the couch, grab some pieces of paper and maybe a book to back them with, and just start drawing in things like I'm doing here, you know. Maybe you've got a room, you come in through here, and it's more like something you would see in a palace, like you've got stairs, round stairs on each side leading down. I'll just do a little arrow to show that it goes down. Woo. Like that. And then down below there's a lower level, so you actually, the players might not realize, they might not think about the fact that by entering this room and going down the stairs, now they're on the second level of your dungeon. The other thing about doing dungeons like this is that you can also just fit several levels onto one piece of paper, and I'll do that a lot. I'll just do like a hallway that goes down, and maybe it comes to like a round room, and it's got, you know, stairs leading down, and there's another passage leading off the other way, and now they're on the second level. Or like you find often in Tonisborg Dungeon, you will have a place where you just come along and there is an open shaft in the floor, and often this will go down, you know, what comes off of it might be a room, and the players are like, oh, nifty, we went down to another room and we found this room. This room is down, way down below the second level. It could be the fourth level. Maybe there's a passage that comes off here and goes over this way, right? And it just goes right under that room and comes out the other side on your map. And the more convoluted and strange you get, the more fun you can have. There's no reason not to have angled passages going in weird directions, like you open the door and, I don't know, There's a happy little statue there. And you've got passages leading off. Just do whatever comes to mind. Get creative. I think it's important, just don't even follow the rules. You might come up with some really genius idea because you're not trying to follow the rules. You're just being creative and having fun. Because being the dungeon master is actually a lot more fun than being the player, because you get to do things like this. I hope that helps you kind of get started into making dungeons. I'm going to talk a little bit more about what goes into a dungeon and the whole process that's involved there in an upcoming show. So make sure to hit that like button and maybe subscribe. In fact, I would like it if you subscribed. And come back next time and we'll talk a little bit about dungeons kind of more theoretically and talk about what's going into it, and maybe even just talk about another approach, another philosophy to dungeon creation. So we'll see you next time on The Informal Game.